Hi everyone, happy June. It's Alina here from Creative Field Designs, and I'm sharing this really fun, beginner friendly brush calligraphy tutorial with you all today. So, it's all about focusing on the basic strokes of calligraphy because I just feel like it's very often under practiced, and I think that's the main reason why a lot of calligraphy beginners give up because they don't give enough attention to like learning to form the letters from the shapes. And I think it's so easy to just kind of jump into lettering longer words, phrases, long quotes, your favorite song lyrics. I mean, we've all done it, we've all been there, but it's just so much easier to then progress when you know how each letter is formed, when you've practiced the lowercase letters by putting together shapes. And that's what we are going to focus on in this tutorial. We're going to do some lovely words, we're going to break them into shapes, and then we'll try to add some stylistic tweaks to make the word look a bit more interesting. So I hope you're feeling ready. Grab your brush pens, maybe different colors, and let's get started. So let's begin by just going through all the basic shapes of calligraphy so that we know what shapes we're looking for when we are lettering words. For today's practice, I'll be using this brush sign pen by Pentel in black color. I might use something else, we'll see what happens, but this is just a wonderful pen for beginners. And we want to slant it to the side to be able to create a thick stroke. So we're going to press down hard and engage the side of the pen as we go down. So this is our downstroke. Now we're going to go up. This is going to be the upstroke. And then we're going to go down and up. So there's a transition there at the bottom. So we're transitioning from thick into thin. And this is called the underturn. Then we do the same shape upside down and is the overturn. We can also try to do the O shape. And then if you combine the underturn and overturn together, so two U shapes, you get a compound curve that looks like this. And you can alternate. You can start with thick or you can start with thin. And we're going to do two more shapes. So these will be the ones that stretch up or down, depending on the letter. So imagine you're doing the letter B. So we can try the ascender loop shape. And then imagine you're doing the letter J or G or Y. And it's called a descender loop shape, and we're stretching down. So these shapes are so important, and if you're a beginner, I just recommend practicing them again and again, filling pages upon pages, practicing these shapes, building the muscle memory, and then starting to compose each letter out of these shapes. So I'm just showing you a few examples and just see how I'm combining all of these shapes together to form some of these lowercase letters. And today's practice is going to be really fun. So I think I'm going to use these two pens. So try this with me. Just pick two colors and we're going to letter some words, but we're going to focus on shapes. So let's try this together. Let's start with the word moon, something short. So I'm using the brown pen to do a downstroke, which is the beginning of the letter M. Then I'm using the yellow pen to do the overturn shape. So I'm just forming the letter M. I'm using the brown pen again to do the compound curve. So go up, down, and up. And here we go. That's our letter M. Let's continue. I'm going to do the letter O in yellow as one shape, and then the letter O in brown as another shape. Let's start doing the letter N. So we have a downstroke in yellow and then doing a compound curve in brown. So can we just see how many shapes there are? So there's a downstroke, there's the overturn, there's a compound curve, and it's all in the letter M. And then we're doing O shapes. So I'm just styling them slightly differently, but they're still ovals. So we're just focusing on ovals. And then the letter N, consisting of a downstroke and a compound curve again. So it sounds crazy that there are so many shapes in one word, but that's the key. Calligraphy is all about just building each letter out of shapes, thinking of letters as shapes. And as I'm doing the word moon in kind of one go, I'm still stopping in between the shapes. It's very rhythmical, even though I'm making pauses, they're not very long. So it still feels really rhythmical. And once you master all the shapes and joining the letters, we can start stylizing. So that's a very good place when to start stylizing your letters. We can try doing bouncy calligraphy, where we're stretching some letters below the baseline. So you can see that the first example was done in baseline style. So everything is sitting on the baseline. And the second example is a bit more stylized with some bounds to the letter M and to the letter N. And it just looks so much more playful. Okay, so should we try this again with another word? We can try doing something slightly different. Let's do the word garden just in a very, very similar way. We're going to construct each letter out of shapes. I'm starting with brown, doing the letter G. So starting with oval, stopping, swapping to yellow, doing a descender shape, stopping. And then I'm going to do just this little tail in brown. So we can think of this as an upstroke. And then back to yellow, starting to form the letter A with an oval, and then back to brown, doing the undertan with a little loop of the letter R, yellow again to do a U shape, back to brown, starting with oval to form the letter D, adding on the ascender shape to lengthen the letter D, and then the letter E is just a shape on its own. So that flows nicely. And the letter N again. So we've done the letter N. So there's a downstroke and a compound curve. And as you do the last stroke of the letter N, try to extend that upstroke kind of upwards just to complete it nicely. Okay, let's see what shapes we found there. So there's an oval, a descender loop, another oval in the letter A, the undertan. So just see what shapes you can find there and pick them out and just practice them individually a few more times. This is so helpful. It will not only help you build the muscle memory, but it'll just help the understanding of the actual letters and how they're built. This is really important. And again, let's just try this with a bit more flow. So I'm still separating all the shapes and I'm joining them all up into lowercase letters. So you can see how I don't necessarily stop for long. It's all quite rhythmical and it just feels like a dance, you know. You kind of just do all the shapes in a rhythmical way and they just form a beautiful word. And again, we can add a bit more style. So we can maybe do this bouncy version where we bounce the letter R and the letter D and maybe the letter N at the end. And notice how I'm also extending the first stroke of the letter of the word and the last stroke of the word. And these are called entrance and exit strokes. So I highly recommend extending them for more of a professional look. So it's quite hard to do if you're a beginner, but if you make that first stroke a bit more focused and that last stroke a little bit slower, and again, very focused, it's just going to make your word look a bit more complete. So, again, clear difference here between the baseline style and a very bouncy, playful style. Well done. Feel free to pause the video to catch up. And when you're ready, let's do one more word to finish the practice. And we're going to do something longer. Let's do the word adventure. So I'm just starting with the letter A, dividing the letter into shapes. So the letter A and D start in exactly the same way. It's really interesting. So they both start with ovals. I'm also separating the letter V into a downstroke and an upstroke, doing the letter N in two parts again. So occasionally you'll come across some shapes that we didn't include in this first exercise where we did all the shapes. But that's quite normal, you know, like the loop of the letter R, that's not something we've practiced, or the letter E in itself is just a shape, or the letter C is just kind of like a half of the oval. So there are still little shapes here and there that will need extra practice, but those that we practiced, the ones we warmed up with, those are the main ones. And let's try doing this again with a bit more flow, with a bit more rhythm, just in one color. So see how I'm stopping. It's really nice to have that pause, to remember to breathe, to refocus before you continue. And again, I'm trying to keep everything on the baseline as I do this version here. And maybe you can try doing a bouncy version as well. So I'm going to start with the letter A, where I bounce the downstroke of the letter A. And we can add this beautiful detached flourish on the letter D that flows above the letter A. It looks really, really fun. And then just continue. So the letter E, the letter N, the letter T can bounce below the baseline. The second part of the letter U, the letter R, they're all really wonderful bouncy letters. And again, see how I've extended the exit stroke here. So it just looks a bit more complete. So here we are, two different styles that we have achieved by just adding some stylistic tweaks. Beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this practice. If you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to keep practicing with me, I have a wonderful intermediate brush calligraphy course, and that'll just help you to squeeze in more practice to cover things like flourishing, composition, or if you still feel like you are a beginner and you need more guidance, you'll enjoy my beginners brush calligraphy course. I'll add some links in the description. Have a look and good luck with your practice. This was fun. We'll do this again soon. Take care.